School District Region 2 School Board Candidate Debate at Armstrong Junior Senior High School. My name is Emmy Ford, and I am a senior AHS and a student in Mr. Cook's Advanced Placement American Government and Politics class. Tonight, I am joined by my AP classmates who will serve as moderators for tonight's debate. They are Shelby Cloak, Nathan Farrow, and Harper Gold. Tonight's debate will feature the candidates running for ASD Region 2 School Board. There are a total of 4 candidates. 2 candidates will be elected in the general election on November 7th. At this time, I will introduce the candidates in the order they will appear on the ballot. Mr. Todd Luke. Mr. Luke will appear on the ballot as both the Democratic and Republican nominee, as he won both party nominations in the spring primary. Mr. Luke resides in West Franklin Township. Mr. Brady Schaefer. Mr. Schaefer will appear on the ballot as both the Democratic and Republican nominee, as he won both party nominations in the spring primary. Mr. Schaefer resides in Katanning Borough. He is unable to be with us this evening. Mr. John Thomas. Mr. Thomas will appear on the ballot as a Libertarian candidate, as he filed required paperwork to be listed on the ballot as a third-party candidate. Mr. Thomas resides in Katanning Borough. Ms. Melissa Walding. Ms. Walding will appear on the ballot as a Libertarian candidate, as she filed required paperwork to be listed on the ballot as a third-party candidate. Ms. Walding resides in East Franklin Township. To begin tonight's event, my peer, Wyatt Prenti, will present the rules of the debate. Wyatt.
Good evening. At this time, I'm going to provide the rules for tonight's debate. These rules have been established by the student moderators and have been shared with the candidates by email prior to tonight's debate. First, each candidate will be given 3 minutes to make an opening statement. The candidates will be recognized in the order in which they will appear on the ballot. Using a rotating ordering system, the student moderators will ask of the candidates. For example, Mr. Luke will give his opening statement first, followed by Mr. Thomas and Ms. Waddle. Mr. Thomas will receive the first question first, followed by Ms. Wadding and Mr. Luke. Ms. Wadding will receive the second question first, and so on. Each candidate will have the opportunity to answer each question. 2 minutes will be allocated to each candidate to answer each question. After the candidate answers the question, student moderators will have the opportunity to ask a follow-up question. The candidate will have 1 minute to answer the follow-up question if the moderator elects to ask one. Once the first candidate answers, it goes down the line. Moderators will repeat the question for each candidate. Each follow-up question may be different based on student research. A total of 14 questions have been prepared for the candidates. After all the rounds of questioning have concluded, each candidate will be allocated 2 minutes to give a closing statement, which will be given in reverse ballot order. Student timekeepers will be sitting in the front row of the auditorium. When 30 seconds of the candidate's allocated time remains, a yellow card will be displayed. Once the allotted time has expired, a red card will be displayed. Every candidate is asked to respect the time frame set for the debate. Moderators will instruct candidates to stop speaking when their time expires. Candidates are asked to adhere strictly to the time limits as they have been established. At this time, Harper Vogt will moderate the opening statement portion of tonight's debate.
Good evening. We have arrived at the portion of the debate where each candidate will give their opening statement. Each candidate will be allotted 3 minutes. Mr. Luke, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Todd Luke, and I'm here this evening asking for your support and your vote for re-election for school board representing Region 2. It's been an honor and a privilege to serve as your representative. I'm committed to continuing that work. During my first term, the district has faced many numerous challenges, from budget constraints to adapting to a changing educational landscape during the pandemic. However, with your support and dedication, we have made significant strides in maintaining and improving the quality of education in our region. One of my proudest achievements has been my unwavering commitment to academic excellence. Our students deserve the best education possible, and I have tirelessly advocated for increased resources, innovative teaching methods, and modern technologies to ensure that the students receive just that. Education is just not about test scores. It's about nurturing well-rounded individuals who are prepared for the challenges they will face in the 21st century. That's why I support the arts, sports, and extracurricular activities for all students. These experiences enrich a student's lives and teach them valuable life lessons, teamwork, perseverance, and leadership. Safety is another top priority. In today's world, it's essential to ensure that our students are safe and have an environment that's safe for learning. I have advocated for enhanced security measures, including access control and restricted access to certain sections of the building during evening events. Furthermore, I continue to promote transparency and community involvement. Our school board meetings are open forums for discussion and decision-making where every voice matters. I have actively engaged with parents, teachers, and community members from all regions to ensure that your concerns and ideas are heard and considered in decision-making processes. I push for meetings to be accessible via Zoom for community view, open caucus, and voting meetings, and they still are today. There are still challenges to face. Education is being reshaped with post-pandemic challenges, trauma, anxiety, depression, and artificial intelligence. We must continue to adapt to these changing circumstances. I am committed to supporting our schools as they navigate these uncharted waters, providing the best possible education while ensuring the health and safety of our students and staff. In conclusion, I ask for your support and your vote to continue serving as your representative on the school board for Region 2 of Armstrong County. Together, we can build upon the progress we've made and ensure that our schools remain a place of growth, learning, and opportunity for all students. Thank you for your trust, and let's work together for a brighter future for this community. Thank you.
Mr. Thomas, you have 3 minutes.
I want to first thank the gifted honors classes for hosting this debate. This is a great activity and truly a great service to our community. Thank you. I'm also grateful that gifted honors classes are still a thing at Armstrong. Believe it or not, many districts are doing away with gifted honors classes. And you may ask, why is that? Well, they view them as inequitable. Equity is a concept that's very popular these days in educational circles, but it's also very dangerous. I always prefer excellency to equity. In systems where everyone is equal, nobody is excellent. So a drive to equity tends to include efforts to lower those at the top, more so than to raise those at the bottom. Embracing excellency over equity ensures that we keep great programs like gifted honors courses. In many of my campaign videos, I close with the statement, we will win, we will win, we will win. And I want to state tonight that the we is not just me and my campaign team, but the entire community. When we get our budget under control, putting more money into the hands of taxpayers, we as a community will win. When we reject critical race theory so that we can be united, all races, all nationalities, all creeds, standing together to tackle the legitimate problems that we face, we will win. When we allow our boys and girls safety and privacy in settings designed for their biological sex so that they can feel secure, we will win. When we have transparency in all that we do, giving us the option to offer opinions before spending thousands of dollars on programs, we will win. When our teachers can focus on teaching the content that they are trained to teach, rather than some woke curriculum, we will win. When our district can make decisions that are right for Armstrong without the burdensome strings that come from accepting every grant that comes our way, we will win. When school choice is promoted and encouraged, we will win. When we reject those who refuse to stand up for students' rights throughout COVID, and we send a signal that education will never take the back seat to politics, we will win. When students and parents are above politics, We will win. Vote Libertarian on in November.
Mr. Thomas, your
Mrs.
time is
White
up.
and myself, and we will win. Thank you very much.
Ms. Wadding, you have 3 minutes.
First of all, I want to thank everyone for this wonderful hands-on learning experience for the kids and everyone here. My name is Melissa Wadding. I am a graduate of Elderton High School and a local business owner. As a parent of children who were in the public school system in 2020, I too went through the educational challenges of that year and beyond. I experienced many of the different schooling options available to parents within Armstrong County, from in-person schooling to the district's version of cyber school to an accredited cyber school, and eventually chose to homeschool our children. This knowledge of different educational systems has given me a unique perspective on education that I'm hoping I can bring to our district. I have strong family values and Christian morals. My family knows many children in the public school system that need someone with strong morals to speak out for them, which has caused me to ultimately step forward in running. As a homeschool mom, I've had people tell me I cannot serve on the school board because I do not have any children attending our public school system. Let's take a look at how many other current or past school board members did not have children attending public school while they were serving on the board. Having children attending the school while serving on the board is not a prerequisite of serving on a school board. Additionally, anyone paying taxes in this school district has a vested interest in our children's education. I would also argue that homeschooling our kids has actually made me more qualified to serve on a school board, considering I have to plan and implement all activities for my kids, budget for said activities, ensure they are learning all information necessary to a fulfilling future, including the typical bookwork, as well as life skills they will need to survive. Each year I have to learn new information or come up with new topics to cover based upon my children's learning progress and individual needs and interests. I have also had to research and read through the curriculum I use for my children, which is more than can apparently be said about the current administration prior to implementing their new controversial curriculum this year. From the beginning of my campaign, transparency has been a major concern of mine. Through my interactions with other Armstrong County parents and residents, I have discovered that parents are not being properly informed about curriculum choices being made within the district, their ability to opt out, or even the details about the current school board meetings, as there is never any public discussion in regards to the topics on the school board meeting agendas. The parents and taxpayers of this district deserve to know and have full say in what their children are being taught in schools and not be forced to co-parent with the government. There needs to be more open discussion and even regular town hall meetings to engage in open conversation. There has been an ever-increasing budget, and in my attendance at the April school board meeting, it was mentioned that they will have to look at raising taxes over the next 5 years. Most families are having a hard enough time surviving, paying bills, putting food on the table without the added stress of their school taxes being raised as well. I fully intend on taking a closer look at the budget and work with current and incoming school board members and administrators to find a way around raising taxes in the future. Thank you.
Now proceed with questions.
We will begin the first question with Mr. Thomas. Mr. Thomas, is there a particular issue that has motivated you to run for school board? What are your top priorities for improving the Armstrong School District? You have 2 minutes to respond.
Thank you. I probably first thought about running for school board in 2020, whenever the current board decided to put politics ahead of education and shut down the schools. I have been involved in education for a very long time. It's something that's very passionate to me. But there are many other issues that are relevant and important to me. For example, the push towards woke curriculum choices, the push towards transgenderism in schools does not reflect Armstrong County values. And we need people on the school board who are willing to stand up and defend Armstrong County values. Those values are being attacked from the state level and from the national level. Unfortunately, right now we have a school board who likes to vote 9-0 on almost every vote that comes up, so that they're rubber stamping whatever Harrisburg or Washington, D.C. dictates. We need to have local values represented, and I am happy to represent those values.
Thank you. And Mr. Thomas, as a follow-up, could you please explain the woke curriculum to me?
Yeah, so the woke curriculum is anything that puts students at odds with one another through focusing on race, gender issues, things that do not treat all students equally. Though that's the idea of woke. Critical race theory is one of the topics that would be included in that function. Critical race theory is a Marxist ideology. It is an ideology that, with Marx, you had an idea that everyone's divided into classes. There are oppressed classes and oppressive classes. In critical race theory, the oppressed class is any minority. The oppressive class is any white person. It's a racist theory, and it's making its ways into schools.
Thank you. And Ms. Wadding, is there a particular issue that has motivated you to run for school board? What are your top priorities for improving the Armstrong School District?
Actually, the primary thing that got me interested was the issues with bullying that I've seen. I have known people that have, children that have been personally affected, and it's heartbreaking. And honestly, whenever I first decided to run, that was one of the things I put out. I wanted to find out what everybody's ideas are. I wanted to get everybody else's opinions, because we are a community, we need to work together. And that was one of the things that a lot of people came at me for, was bullying and accountability on both the teachers, staff, and students, with punishments and things like that. That's probably like the number one biggest thing. And then since running, I have noticed a lot of issues with transparency, as I did mention, within my opening statement. A lot of parents are not being listened to, and they feel like their voice is not heard.
Thank you. And Mr. Luke, is there a particular issue that has motivated you to run for school board? What are your top priorities for improving the Armstrong School District? You have 2 minutes to respond.
I don't necessarily have an issue. I've lived in this community my whole life. I never got out of this community until I was 23 years old. There is a whole big world out there. It's a little bit bigger than Armstrong County. 1 in 3 people in the workforce, if you look at the National Bureau of Labor and Statistics, 1 in 3 employees are bilingual. That means probably every kid graduating from this district, 1 out of 3 of them is going to work with somebody that could speak Mandarin or some other foreign language. I've given to this community my whole life. I've been involved in the Fort Armstrong Folk Festival as a board member. I've been involved in the Worthington Little League as a board member. I belong to the Elks, not necessarily as a board member, but as a way to give back to the community. And so this was just one more way. I do a tremendous amount of work 200 days out of the year in education across this country, and I don't believe I do enough to help my own community. And so that's why I decided to run for board last election, and that's why I'm asking for your support again. I look at the 21st century, I look at the World Economic Forum, I look at the World Language Forum standards and things that our students are going to need to truly survive. And are we truly offering that? One of my running mates mentioned equity. Equity shouldn't be confused with equal. I believe giving every kid in this school district new shoes, size 7, is equal. I believe giving every kid who lives in this community shoes that fit them is equity. And so when you talk about gifted honors programs, those students are getting the shoes that fit them. I will always support that. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, Ms. Wadding, do you support the social emotional learning or SEL curriculum? What do you believe is the intended purpose of SEL? What effect do you believe it will have on the student body? You have 2 minutes to respond.
First off, I do not. I have spoken with a lot of parents that are currently reading a lot of things within that particular curriculum that is a little disheartening. As far as, I believe that everybody should have equal opportunities. Nobody should be held to a higher standard than everybody, that no, everybody is equal, okay? So everybody should have equal opportunities, not equal outcomes. And that's a lot of what this SEL curriculum points toward, is an equal outcome for all. Everybody, as long as we have the same opportunities to go towards something, then that's wonderful. As far as the purpose, I believe that it is something that is made, as Mr. Thomas had mentioned, to separate people. It has a lot of the Marxist ideologies as far as separating people into specific classes. With the effect of things, I have actually been doing some research on that. There are some other schools that have, of course, implemented this. It is a lot of different places. A lot of the things that I read from students said that they feel that the connections with other students are being forced, and it did not feel comfortable. When you go out to make friends, you go out to find somebody that has the same ideas or same interests that you have. And so if you're being forced to connect with somebody who doesn't necessarily have those same interests, it could actually be detrimental in the long run.
Thank you. And Mr. Luke, do you support the social emotional learning, or SEL curriculum? What do you believe is the intended purpose of SEL? And what effect do you believe it will have on the student body? You have 2 minutes to respond.
When I look at social emotional curriculum, I really look at the whole child. This district, within this district, we have a 40% free or reduced lunch rate. And that means a lot of students here don't necessarily come from homes that are fantastic. And so there's a lot of trauma that goes on with those. I grew up as a father of an alcoholic. My father was an abusive alcoholic. I had a lot of trauma. If you're familiar with the ACEs quiz, I scored 10 out of 10 on that quiz, and that's not a good number. And so when I look at the things that we need to do for children today, we talk about being comfortable. These kids are going to, it's very difficult to stay in this area if we don't provide a good, sound workforce or something for them to do. They're going to move away. And so when you think about moving away, you're going to encounter those people all over the world. And it's not so much indoctrinating people to make them accept something. It's just showing them, I believe, a perspective. Nobody likes change. As you're standing there now, Shelby, I'd like you to cross your arms. Okay, note how they're cross them the other way. Do you like that? That's because it's change. Nobody likes change, but we need to provide the opportunities for our students to be able to have the grit and the tenacity and the resilience to survive in this world, regardless of what's dealt to them.
Thank you. And Mr. Thomas, do you support the SEL curriculum? What do you believe is the intended purpose of it, and what effect do you believe it will have on the student body? You have 2 minutes to respond.
Well, Shelby, I'd like to thank you first for participating in Mr. Luke's experiment there. At the most recent caucus meeting, somebody asked the school board to participate in something like that, and all of them had their arms crossed too, but they weren't asked to. They just refused to participate. So that was very good of you. SEL curriculum is, it's one of those things that, they say it's to teach kindness. And I think kindness is important. That's a good virtue. But let me tell you that the best place to learn kindness is at your church. And your school should not be your church. Right now, the public schools are trying to encroach on spiritual health, and that is not a good thing. They will screw it up. You do not want somebody who's trained to teach math to be a psychologist. They're not trained for that. You do not want somebody who teaches English to be a psychologist. They are not trained for that. What you want is people who teach math to teach math, because if we have a lot of people moving out of the area, that's because we don't have a lot of opportunities in this area. The best way to build opportunities is to train our students in math, and that's by having math teachers teach math. train our students in reading and in English and interpreting text. And that happens by having English teachers teach English. We're having teachers teach content that they are not trained to teach. Plus, we're spending all kinds of money on this curriculum. We just need to give up on this curriculum and get back to the basics.
Thank you. Mr. Thomas, as a follow-up, the intention of the SEL curriculum is to unite children together and to form a community, essentially. Do you think that is not the intention of that? Or?
I think that that probably is the intention. But people standing united is not a beneficial goal in and of itself. It depends on what they are united in. Hitler had an idea to unite all of Germany. All the German-speaking people should stand united. Standing united is not an end in and of itself. It can be good. We should stand united to achieve good ends. But whenever we make that an end of itself, we're just missing the big picture.
Mr. Luke, one of the issues that the student body chronically endures is the lack of good Wi-Fi connection. The school Wi-Fi is notoriously unreliable and ineffective. Good Wi-Fi connection is essential to students and teachers, especially seeing as much of our learning is done through Canvas, Google Classroom, and online. Do you have a plan to fix the Wi-Fi problems that students and teachers have been experiencing for years on end? You have 2 minutes.
Are you talking about universal broadband for our community, or are you talking about the Wi-Fi within the school system?
Both.
Well, within the school system, I know that we've invested over $2 million over the course of my term on school board in infrastructure for updating the networks, actually updating the access points so there are more access points. We've spent money to put a Chromebook in every student's hand, so we are a one-to-one district, which we not find a lot of those across the country with a district this size. With the community, I believe when you look at the bigger picture outside of school, I believe we need to work with stakeholders like the county commissioners and our state representatives to enhance the broadband across the entire state, so in every remote place, every student can have that access that he or she needs to be successful online.
Thank you. Mr. Thomas, one of the issues that the student body chronically endures is the lack of good Wi-Fi connection. The school Wi-Fi is notoriously unreliable and ineffective. Good Wi-Fi connection is essential to students and teachers, especially seeing as most of our learning is done online. Do you have a plan to fix the Wi-Fi problems that students and teachers have been experiencing for years on end? You have 2 minutes.
Well, the Wi-Fi issue presents a microcosm of another issue, that throwing money at a problem does not solve it. As Mr. Luke just said, they spent $2 million to upgrade the Wi-Fi connection here, and it still does not work. Just more money and more money and more money is not the answer. So I would encourage technology classes to look into some of the hindrances of the Wi-Fi here. Use those resources. Teach our students through having them solve problems. I was reading recently about a school in Wisconsin that had a problem that they were a one-to-one school with their Chromebooks and found that every 2 or 3 years they were having to replace from half to a third of their Chromebooks. And it was just a lot of money that was going out. So they started to train their students on how to fix the Chromebooks. So these students were learning real-world experience that they could apply then later on in life, plus they were addressing an issue for the school. So I would support having our students look into the Wi-Fi connectivity issue here and have them unleash their potential in solving the problem rather than just throwing more money at it.
Thank you. a follow-up, how do you believe that students will be able to fix this problem? And is there anything in particular that you believe that they can do, that they have the means to do? You have 1 minute.
I am not an expert on Wi-Fi technology, so I don't know precisely how they can do it. I don't know if they can do it, but I do know that a lot of minds put together is a way to solve problems. One of the problems we have had with the district is a lot of what they do is done behind closed doors, where it's not very transparent. By bringing transparency into situations, you can get more eyes, more brains on solving problems. And by having a lot of the meetings in executive session, behind closed doors, by having the budgets posted with just broad categories rather than specific categories, people in the community cannot look into details at these issues and help to come up with solutions. By having more transparency, we get a lot more minds, a lot more ideas on the issues to resolve them.
Thank you. Ms. Wadding, one of the issues that the student body chronically endorses is the lack of good Wi-Fi connection. The school Wi-Fi is notoriously unreliable and ineffective. Good Wi-Fi connection is essential to students and teachers, especially seeing as most of our learning is done online. Do you have a plan to fix the Wi-Fi problems that students and teachers have been experiencing for years on end? You have 2 minutes.
Actually, honestly, what Mr. John Holmes said, there's a lot of important information to take from that. I do believe in a lot of hands-on learning, and that's a wonderful statement that he made, how students can take a look at it as well. I have seen a lot of things where there's a lot more curriculum getting hands-on, and that's wonderful. I personally like more hands-on learning. I have seen it through my children that they learn better instead of just sitting in front of a computer all day. Now, that being said, yes, we have all seen, I'm sure you're all looking at your cell phones and you're thinking, I have no service in here. There are network extenders that can be utilized. I am not currently aware of all of the technology options that are within this school. I can tell you from my past experience working at Verizon Wireless that the material that a building is made out of prevents a network from getting through. And that's what it seems like a big issue is here. So that would be something that needs to be taken a look at. I have kind of a general background in internet, Wi-Fi computers. I am not a professional, and that's where we need to talk to tech departments as well and see what some of the other cost-effective items are. As Mr. Thomas mentioned again, throwing money at a problem doesn't make it better. We need to research, and then we need to see what would be the best option, working with students who maybe know the specific dead spots within the school and the tech department.
Thank you. Mr. Thomas, U.S. News and World Report published a ranking of Pennsylvania high schools based on Keystone score results. Compared to other Pittsburgh area schools, Armstrong Junior Senior High School ranked number 35. The site also gave AHS a 16.8 college readiness rating out of 100. What is your response to those figures? Do you believe that they are accurate? Why or why not? You have 2 minutes.
I don't believe they're inaccurate. I think that they only measure so much. I actually looked into those figures not too long ago and plotted them against the per pupil spending at every district, and you saw that there was actually a slightly negative correlation between spending and results. So it was interesting from that perspective that we're spending, the money that we're spending is not ending up in results in education. So it was indeed interesting in that perspective. It's also, but I think there are good things that are happening here in Armstrong. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer here. There are great things. Like I said earlier, we have the gifted honors classes that you guys are involved in, which is great. We have small town values here that we instill in our kids a lot of times hard work and commitment and dedication, and that helps them to score well and do well. And I think that our community is wonderful. It is a wonderful place to live. It's a wonderful place to grow. And we just need to continue to build on that.
Thank you. As a follow-up, do you believe that standardized testing is an accurate measure of a student's academic and future capabilities? You have 1 minute.
No, that just measures a small portion of what they can do.
Thank you. Ms. White, U.S. News and World Report published a ranking of Pennsylvania high schools based on Keystone score results. Compared to other Pittsburgh area schools, Armstrong Junior Senior High School ranked number 35. The site gave AHS a college readiness rating of 16.8 out of 100. What is your response to those figures? Do you believe that they are accurate? Why or why not? You have 2 minutes.
I do agree with John that it's not 100% inaccurate now. And there are a lot of things that are changing. A lot of times, and even myself in the past, you learn for a test, but do you retain that knowledge? Or do you just forget it? I know myself, when I had tests, I would learn the information for that test, and then whenever the test happened, it was out of my brain, make room for something else. Even in college, I did the same thing. You would cram right the night before for finals, and then you would forget everything. I think it is definitely more important to have information that is retainable. Whenever students are doing hands-on education, you're learning that. You're not just learning something for a test and then forgetting it.
Thank you. As a follow-up, do you believe that standardized testing is an accurate measure of a student's academic and future capabilities?
I don't believe, I do not believe that it is a 100% accurate representation. I know many people who are very intelligent people but are horrible test takers. My daughter's one of them. She hates tests. Whenever it comes to tests, she does good. She does horrible. Not horrible, but she doesn't do as good as I know she could. And so I honestly, through homeschooling, we do have to do portfolios for our kids. So over the course of the year, we actually keep track of the things that the children do throughout the year. Some examples of their writing, spelling tests, math, and you can physically see the change that is happening within that child. And then you can see that they are retaining that information when you discuss it down the road. So I think something like a more personalized portfolio is a better representation of an actual learning occurring.
Thank you. Mr. Thomas. Excuse me, Mr. Luke. U.S. News and World Report published a ranking of Pennsylvania high schools based on Keystone score results. Compared to other Pittsburgh area schools, Armstrong Junior Senior High School ranked number 35. The site also gave AHS a 16.8 college readiness rating out of 100. What is your response to those figures? Do you believe that they are accurate? Why or why not? You have 2 minutes.
I believe, based on what they're measuring, they're accurate. When we look at those scores, I actually have a spreadsheet on my own that I've created. I have about 50 schools from all across the state in it with their future ready index scores that look at, students are proficient or advanced on ESSAs or Keystones at every grade level from 3rd grade to 12th as they measure those exams. I also have looked at the idea of comparing those schools not just based on those scores, but when you compare those schools based on free or reduced lunches, or you base those schools on IEPs, individual education programs, where you have students that have IEPs or 504 plans. When you compare our school to most of those other schools that are like ours, we lead the way in free and reduced lunches and IEPs. People want to compare us to Fox Chapel. Fox Chapel has a 7% IEP. We have 30%. Unless you look with inside Fox Chapel Kerr Elementary School, who has an extremely high IEP population, but those students are sort of an outlier within that district. So, when you look at those things, it truly matters. When you look at, one of the things both of the candidates on the stage talk about budgeting and numbers. We spend over $3 million a year. Over $3 million leave this community and go to cyber charter schools. Those cyber charter schools are also in my data set, and they don't score anywhere near where public education does, as far as that future readiness.
Thank you. As a follow-up, do you believe that standardized testing is an accurate measure of a student's academic and future capabilities? You have 1 minute.
First of all, standardized testing should never be used to evaluate or judge a student or a teacher, ever. Standardized testing is designed to diagnose and prescribe where you have central tendencies within a problem so that you can basically try to figure out a solution for it. You know, looking at one snapshot in time and saying this is a bad teacher or this is a bad student is ridiculous. That was never the intent. Although through No Child Left Behind, the politicians have made that so that teachers want to teach to the test. And that doesn't work either, because we tried that for 15 years under No Child Left Behind, and our students are no better off than they were when we started. And so, you know, standardized testing is a good thing if used in the right manner.
Do you believe that it is used in the right manner?
I'm sorry?
Do you believe that it is used in the way that you
No.
say it should be?
We use the way we judge.
Thank you.
They judge you and they judge the teachers. Shouldn't do that.
Thank you. Ms. Brown, do you endorse the Common Knowledge Language Arts or CKLA reading curriculum for kindergarten through 5th grade students? Please explain why you are in favor or opposed to it. You have 2 minutes to respond.
Just straight up, no. Again, that's something where I have spoken to parents who have gone through the curriculum, which I just want to say that no parent should have to bend over backwards and try to jump through hoops to be allowed to read curriculum that their children are learning in school. I think that is something that first and foremost is every parent's right to know what their children are learning about. But in regards to that, there have been a lot of concerns from parents, rightly so, things that are not grade appropriate or age appropriate for the child, things that are not necessarily teaching a biblical worldview. I mean, there's a lot of specifics of things that I've heard details about, but it's generally not age appropriate from the things that I have heard about from other people.
You mentioned a biblical worldview. Do you believe that it is appropriate to teach kids through a biblical worldview when not all are Christian?
I'm sorry, can you repeat? I was having a hard time hearing, so that's what I'm trying.
You mentioned that the CKLA curriculum does not teach through a biblical worldview. Do you believe that students should be taught through a biblical worldview when not all are Christian? You have 1 minute.
I think that, specifically through a biblical worldview in regards to that, you can actually teach a lot more kindness, a lot more courage through something like that. There's one specific situation that I was informed of where students are being told to, they're researching and being taught about the god of hell and the goddess of hell within Greek mythology. I think it's important that you have a cultural view, that you are aware of other places, but something like that is not something that a young child, 8 years old, should be learning about hell.
Thank you. Mr. Luke, do you endorse the Common Knowledge Language Arts or CKLA reading curriculum for kindergarten through 5th grade students? Please explain why you're in favor of or opposed to it. You have 2 minutes to respond.
Is that me?
Yes, Mr. Luke.
Okay. I'm in favor, when you look at that curriculum, a lot of people have gone, when you talk about the biblical worldview versus Christianity, all we're talking about is realizing, once again, that in the whole world out there are other people with other perspectives. Here's what I will tell you. My God will win. I believe in God. I believe in Jesus. And if you're trying to tell me that by you explaining to me that there's such a thing called Hinduism, that if I'm good and I lead a good life and I die, I'll be reincarnated to live a better life. If you're telling me that my God will win, if you're trying to tell me that exposing kids to that perspective will change them, I think you should probably question the strength of your faith in the first place. You are not trying to convince me otherwise. My God is great. Period.
Mr. Thomas, do you endorse the Common Knowledge Language Arts, or CKLA, reading curriculum for kindergarten through 5th grade students? Please explain why you are in favor of or opposed to it. You have 2 minutes.
I think before any $700,000 curriculum purchase is made, the curriculum must be vetted not just by the administrators, but by the community. It really is important that we're transparent in what we're doing as a school. Had this curriculum been vetted by the community prior to it being purchased, I think that there would be less hostility between both sides on this. Because once the money is invested, then people are invested in the decision that was made. Before the money is invested, you can have an open dialogue, you can have an open discussion about both sides of it, or multiple sides of the issue. I think there are more than 2 sides of the issue. And I think that that was denied the community. The community was denied an opportunity to do that. So I'm not sure where I would have come out on that had we done it the right way and had transparency in the decision. So I don't know whether I can endorse the curriculum, but I certainly do not endorse the process that was used.
Thank you. As a follow-up, the school district went through a 1-year period of a pilot program with the curriculum where they tested it out and got feedback. Do you believe that that was not enough to verify with the community whether it's okay? You have 1 minute.
Yeah, a pilot program is a lot different than an open forum. Absolutely. A pilot program is where you take something and keep it within a small group before rolling it out to a large group. Transparency is, on the other hand, is whenever you allow the entire group to view something. So these aren't even in the same ballpark.
Mr. Luke, do you believe that there are educational gaps or weaknesses within the Armstrong School District? If so, please identify them. If not, please explain what Armstrong School District does correctly. You have 2 minutes.
There are a lot of things that happen here that are great within this school district, and we should certainly celebrate those. There are also areas where we do have gaps. You know, when you look at gaps, you look at things, in particular within a curriculum. If you're using standardized testing properly and you're doing diagnostic and prescriptive things, you really want to try and solve those problems. If you see a central tendency where a vast majority of students aren't achieving at a certain level. Somebody mentioned earlier about cramming for tests. Cramming for tests does work. Research truly supports that in the short term. Space practice versus mass practice is a whole other piece of research. Space practice, according to John Hattie, one of the leading experts in education, will tell you space practice has a 0.71 effect on student achievement. I believe we need to truly look at research and look at things that are working and have a high impact on student achievement and implement those things here within this district to try and close some of those gaps that everybody knows that we have.
Mr. Thomas, do you believe that there are educational gaps or weaknesses within the Armstrong School District? If so, please identify them. If not, explain what Armstrong School District does correctly. You have 2 minutes.
Well, I want to actually agree with Mr. Luke on that. Space practice and retrieval practice, these are great strategies. These are free strategies too, so they get my support. Whenever you can do something for free, I'm all about it. And we can save a lot of money by teaching our teachers about space practice, about retrieval practice, rather than investing in more programs. And that is a way to cut down on gaps. And absolutely, there are gaps in every district. there are gaps in any, there are students who are high flying in every district. There is not a district in this country that doesn't have gaps. So yes, Armstrong has some gaps, and there are strategies that can be used to close those gaps.
To follow up, could you please explain what those gaps are and how you intend to patch them up? You have 1 minute or so.
Well, as I said, the free strategies that Mr. Luke said, retrieval practice, space practice, those are great ideas. There are, he mentioned John Hattie. John Hattie has many visible learning ideas that can be implemented for free. Those will work. They've been shown to work. And so there is that. Specific areas, it probably varies student to student. Every student is unique, and we can't just treat them like they're all cogs in the machine, but we ought to treat students as individuals.
Ms. Wadding, do you believe that there are educational gaps or weaknesses within the Armstrong School District? If so, please identify them. If not, explain what Armstrong School District does correct. You have 2 minutes to respond.
I actually too do agree with Mr. Luke. And I was, the one who mentioned about cramming for the tests. Whenever you're learning more hands-on over time, that will help you retain that information better. I've mentioned a couple different times with the hands-on learning. I have seen a lot more technology being used, which that was one of the things whenever I asked community members, they wanted more away from the Chromebooks, more hands-on learning. And I think that is one of the things that we can concentrate on. I did actually see Mr. Rob, I believe it was at West Hills. He has a garden that he had set up, and he specifically stated that through maintaining that garden and learning about that garden, kids have gained more knowledge. They want to learn. They're asking more questions. They're actively looking for information. And I would argue that's not just in regards to the garden. It is actually in regards to hands-on learning in general. My kids, if they have a question, they go look it up. They research. And when you do that hands-on, that will help you retain that information a lot more.
Thank you. Mr. Thomas, there has been a recent expansion of AP classes and college and high school opportunities within the school district. One of those course additions has enabled our debate this evening. Do you believe these classes are beneficial? Do you believe that the expansion of college level classes in ASD will prepare students for higher level learning? You have 2 minutes to respond.
I do. As I said in my opening statement, I am very grateful for the gifted honors classes, the AP classes that are being offered at the school, and I think that's something that we're doing well.
Thank you. Ms. Wadding, there's been a recent expansion of AP classes and college and high school opportunities within the school district. One of those course additions has enabled our debate this evening. Do you believe these classes are beneficial? Do you believe that the expansion of college level classes in ASD will prepare our students for higher level learning? 15 minutes to respond.
I actually do as well. I love the ever-expanding groups and extracurricular activities, the AP classes. I think that is a wonderful opportunity for kids. If there's something that you are specifically interested in, then you can continue to follow that even further and dive more in depth. I think it's a wonderful thing.
Ms. Wadding, in what ways do you think this will prepare students for higher level learning? You have 1 minute to respond.
Well, the classes can be a lot more challenging, so whenever you do go to college, you are going to have a lot more challenging classes, a lot more in-depth. So whenever you take something that you get a specific subject matter, and instead of just general information or general learning, you get a specific subject matter and you dive deeper into that, that's definitely going to make those college level courses, and it's going to help everybody excel at what they're interested in.
Mr. Luke, there has been a recent expansion of AP classes in college and the high school opportunities within the school district. One of those course additions has enabled our debate this evening. Do you believe these classes are beneficial? Do you believe the expansion of college level classes in ASD will prepare our students for a higher level learning? You have 2 minutes to respond.
Absolutely. When we talk about every student getting shoes that fit, wouldn't it make sense that some of our students should be able to wear an AP shoe? If we were going to be fair, we wouldn't offer those things in this district. Every student would be taking the exact same curriculum, and we would never get those enhancements. I believe those classes are paramount to this district because when you look at the 21st century economic world standards, or you look at the world language standards, all of those courses are designed to stretch our kids to a much deeper level of learning than just some of the things they can get in those general education, surface level learning classes.
Mr. Luke, in what ways do you think those classes will prepare students for higher level learning?
Well, first of all, when you talk about AP classes and deeper level learning, it's really about creating what I would refer to, or what I would submit as an autonomous learner. A student that knows what to do with complex text, that knows how to cultivate their own intelligence by realizing that they understand something, they don't understand something, whether they have a strategy in place to actually help themselves fix up, or they know they've got to go find somebody else to fix this up for them. Those are all the ideals when you start thinking about advanced basic classes. It's truly about cultivating intelligence at the fluid level as opposed to the crystallized level. And what I mean is crystallized intelligence basically means that I know I can do things and I learn those, I can do them long-term memory because I memorize them, versus fluid intelligence, which truly allows me to use all the capacity of my brain to solve real-world problems.
Thank you.
Ms. Wadding, do you support the positive behavior interventions and supports, or PBIS system that is implemented in all ASD schools? If so, please explain why. If not, please explain. You have 2 minutes to respond.
I actually do. You see a lot more. It's the same with any kid, any animal. If you give them positive feedback, they're going to take that a little bit further. Now, in regards to that as well, I was always, taught if you're learning something specific, you want to sandwich it, something good, something that needs worked on, and then something positive again. So in that regard, yes, I mean, that positive reinforcement is going to really help a lot of kids, but then you can also softly, if there is something, that they need to work on, then you can very softly explain to them, maybe try this a different way or try that a different way. But definitely positive behavior works.
Thank you. Mr. Luke, do you support the positive behavior interventions and supports, or PBIS system that is implemented in all ASD schools? If so, please explain why. If not, please explain why. You have 2 minutes to respond.
Yes, because not every student comes from the same home environment. Home environment plays a critical role in the development of a child. Some students within this district, I would argue, certainly don't need some of those things. They get that at home and they get that at church. There are a lot of students in school that don't get those things. I can tell you my experience, I was raised by wolves. I learned how to fight at a very young age. I learned how to basically avoid conflict. I learned how to stay away from the bullies. I learned how to fight the bullies. Not every kid grew up in the neighborhood I grew up in. Every kid doesn't need that. But when you look at those things and what we can do to try and make good citizens, that's really what we're talking about. We want these kids to grow up. They want to become part of this community and be good citizens. We don't need students running around that are completely defiant of the rules, because of course that's why we have a jail. But when you look at those things, if we can nip those things at a younger age, hopefully some of those problems will go away in the older grade levels. And so when you truly do get out in the real world, you don't have to get fired from 5 jobs because you don't know not to talk back to somebody, or you know how to make a counter argument respectfully in the real world.
Thank you. And Mr. Luke, as a follow-up, do you feel that kids are motivated to be better students when they are rewarded through the system for positive behavior? You have 1 minute to respond.
I don't know that necessarily the behavior has a direct correlation to academic achievement. It's sort of like a carrots and sticks approach. But I truly believe if you can eliminate disruptive behavior, again, when you look at research, eliminating disruptive behavior has a 0.58 effect size on student achievement. And that's, again, from Harry's research. So when you look at the research, if we can truly eliminate a lot of the disruption happening in classrooms, we can get to more achievement. And so, it's the causation and correlation, however, whichever way you want to look at it, not the same thing.
Thank you. And Mr. Thomas, do you support the PBIS system that is implemented in all ASD schools? If so, please explain why. If not, please explain why. You have 2 minutes to respond.
PBIS is one of those things that takes a really good thing and kind of messes it up by making it standardized and making it a system rather than individualized responses. Rewarding kids for positive behavior is a good thing. We ought to do that. But whenever you try to define every single good thing in a matrix, then you get lost in the matrix, and it just becomes ridiculous. So what would be far better is just having people who can recognize good behavior, reward people with good behavior, without creating a system that the kids think is a joke. Let's be honest, there are kids here. You guys think it's a joke, the PBIS reward system, and it could have been done better, absolutely.
Mr. Thomas, as a follow-up, in what ways could it have been done better? You have 1 minute to respond.
As I mentioned, just letting people decide, letting people be people, letting people be humans. Whenever we follow a system, whenever we follow a matrix, that's what the PBIS system uses, is a matrix to make every single decision. We are not computers. We are human beings, and we can make decisions, and just letting humans be humans would have helped.
Thank you. Mr. Luke, how important is it to you to address the issue of student health? What will you do to combat issues such as mental health, substance abuse in schools, drug use, vaping, and marijuana? You have 2 minutes to respond.
Well, I think those are all a huge problem in the school. When you look at mental health and you look at bad decisions that students make. A lot of those bad decisions, again, when you look at the data, come from the culture of the environment within this community. And so if you want to solve those problems, the best time to solve those problems is when kids are at a very young age. And that's why I've always supported pretty much everything they want to do at the elementary or primary grade level when it comes to PBIS, when it comes to literacy, when it comes to academics or achievement. Because if we can change those young students, they will blossom into young adults like the ones that are in this room tonight.
Thank you. And Mr. Thomas, how important is it to you to address the issue of student health? What will you do to combat issues such as mental health, substance abuse in schools, drug use, vaping, and marijuana? You have 2 minutes to respond.
Well, I sure wouldn't shut the school down and mask kids for a year and a half. That's one thing. But I recognize that a lot of these struggles are related to hopelessness. Whether it's child addiction issues or adult addiction issues, people become addicted whenever they see a lack of hope. And one of the struggles that our community faces is hopelessness. And people feel hopeless whenever they feel like they're unprepared for the world that they're facing. By being more strategic about how we use our resources, of how we run our schools, by having math teachers focused on teaching math, reading teachers focused on teaching reading, and having our students prepared for the world, they're going to feel more hope. And once you feel hope, you're able to overcome a lot of those struggles.
Thank you. And Ms. Wadden, how important is it to you to address the issue of student health? What will you do to combat issues such as mental health, substance abuse in schools, drug use, vaping, and marijuana? You have 2 minutes to respond.
Well, honestly, a lot of kids mimic what they see. So I do understand that a lot of kids do not have, a happy home life. I know there's a lot of, dread and depression nowadays. And a lot of that does stem from the mask thing, and kids were, being forced alone. They weren't allowed to see their friends and things like that. So that has definitely, affected a lot of people's mental health. Even adults, not just the kids. Let's be honest. We're not only talking about the kids here. Everybody's mental health has kind of gone down. Now, we do need to show people that there's a lot of good out there, and there is a lot of hope, as Mr. Thomas mentioned. Whenever you have something that you're striving toward, that gives you a goal. If you have a goal to concentrate on, you're not going to stray over here and just lose hope and get into that rut. That's not to say there won't be a rut. Everybody goes through ups and downs. But if somebody is given something, we need to nurture what kids are interested in. If you have a specific interest in the arts, then we need to nurture that in a child. We need to show them all the possibility that they can do with that. That will give them something to look forward toward. That will give them more hope and make them more prepared.
Thank you.
Mr. Thomas, in 2022, 43,000 children were exposed to gunfire at schools across the country. How do you plan to keep our schools safe from gun violence and other threatening acts? Do you believe that all students have the right to feel safe at school? You have 2 minutes to respond.
Well, I'll start with the second half of that, which is real easy. Yes, all students have the right to feel safe in school. The first half of that is a little bit more complex, but we live in a community. I think Armstrong County is the county with the 3rd highest per capita gun ownership rate in the country, and there are lots of counties in Texas. So being the 3rd highest per capita gun ownership rate is a pretty big deal. But our students are around teachers who carry guns all the time. If they're at church, they're around adults who are carrying guns in Armstrong County. If they are at the grocery store, they are around adults who are carrying guns. If they are at a fast food restaurant, they are around adults who are carrying guns. The only place where adults are not allowed to protect kids with guns is at schools. And it is not surprising to me that schools tend to be the place where a lot of mass gun violence happens. There are really 3 organizations in this country, or 3 groups, that want to have high body counts from school shootings. One of them is the shooter themselves, and they see a school as a defenseless area where they can rack up body counts. The second one is the media. The media loves the ratings that they get from hyping up the school shootings. And the third one is the Democratic Party, because it wins them votes over and over again. Those 3 are kind of despicable groups, if you ask me. But the way to combat that is to allow people the freedom that they have in other aspects of life at schools as well.
Thank you. As a follow-up, do you not believe that it is the role of a security guard who is trained and registered in gun ownership to protect schools? You have 1 minute.
A security guard is a security guard. If somebody were to attack the school, you have a uniformed security guard. That person would know to attack the security guard first. It wouldn't take rocket science to figure that out. So a security guard isn't enough. Concealed carry is a great answer. Even if nobody concealed carries, the fact that nobody knows whether or not people are concealed carrying would deter violence. So absolutely, concealed carries, not advertising that we have a security guard in the hallway.
Over 3,000 children were exposed to gunfire at schools across the country. How do you plan to keep our schools safe from gun violence or other threatening acts? Do you believe that all students have the right to feel safe in school? You have 2 minutes to respond.
Absolutely. Everyone should feel safe in school, not just with the students. The teachers and staff need to feel that they are safe as well. Because let's face it, if somebody were to come charging in, they're also the ones that are going to be attacked. It's not just the kids. Everybody needs to feel safe in school. Now, that being said, I do support concealed carry if and only if a teacher is comfortable with it. Nobody should ever be forced to have a gun. And they need to go through proper training, same as what the police would do. As John mentioned, there are tons of people within Armstrong County that have guns that also conceal carry. You could go down to the courthouse, I'm sure, and see, the exact number, because you do have to register for that. But I do want to kind of mention, you mentioned with the security guard, as a follow-up, but that's something that I feel strongly about myself, because I did read, and I think it was in England somewhere, it was in Europe, that there was a school that was attacked. And the first person that was attacked was that security guard, because the person knew that that was the only person, their first line of defense. So if the attacker does not know where the defense is coming from, they're going to be a lot less likely to attack.
As a follow-up, you mentioned that teachers should not be forced to conceal carry unless they are comfortable with it. Do you believe that students' views should be taken into account? If students aren't comfortable with their teachers concealed carrying, should that be taken into account as well? You have 1 minute.
I honestly don't feel that a lot of students would have an issue with it. As John mentioned, living within Armstrong County, you're around people every day. You go into Walmart, I guarantee you got somebody in there that's walking past you or beside you that is concealed carrying and you don't know it.
As another follow-up, your children do not go to Armstrong School District and they're homeschooled. So do you believe that you have an accurate read of students' views in regards to concealed carrying and comfortability? You have 1 minute.
Well, let me make it clear that even though my children are homeschooled and don't go to the physical public school, they are still part of Armstrong School District. You can ask any homeschool parent that, as well as the Pennsylvania homeschool law. But I do know a lot of other kids that are in the public schools. So I don't feel that my view is skewed on that, just because of the other people that I personally do know. Thank you.
In 43,000 children were exposed to gunfire in schools across the country. How do you plan to keep our schools safe from gun violence and other threatening acts? Do you believe all students have the right to feel safe in school? You have 2 minutes to respond.
Yes, all students feel right to have the right to feel safe in school. Guns don't hurt people. Evil people hurt people. Sometimes you have to think about it's not the gun that's the problem. Both the other candidates talked about hope. When you talk about hope or not having hope, hope comes down to 2 things: willpower and agency. Do I have the willpower to set goals to get good grades in school, to show up to school every day? The agency or the willpower are the teachers in this district. We have some amazing people that teach in these classrooms that do amazing things to change students' lives. And so when you look at school safety, and look, I know, because I've been involved in this for 4 years, we talk about a lot of things with school safety in executive session, because you don't necessarily put your safety plan out there for the whole world to know what it is. And so there are some reasons why some things are talked about in executive session. The vast majority of our security guards in this school are retired state policemen. that worked 25 years for this state and took an early retirement. So they're relatively young, but they're highly trained individuals that have spent time on the shooting range, that have spent time disassembling their weapons and reassembling their weapons and guarding their weapons. Anytime you show up to a conflict and somebody has a gun, somebody better remember that. Because the person that doesn't have the gun, the first thing they're going to try and do is take it from you. Arming people is not the solution. Really, when you talk about the security, you came in through a metal detector tonight. Safe to say, kids are reporting those kind of things. Kids in this school, just had an incident not long ago where a student self-reported the fact that he had a weapon in his backpack, and that's great. We need to get to the point where you need to realize a gun isn't the problem. I have lots of guns in my house. I'm part of that per capita. And I have one for hunting, and I have some pistols, and I have a shotgun for turkey hunting. I love to do all that stuff. Doesn't mean I won't do anything bad with them. It's not the gun.
As a follow-up, what do you believe that the school board has done correctly in regards to school safety in the past? You have 1 minute.
Well, I believe we just made a huge investment in access control. We changed all of the doors, and they're now all alarmed that if you leave the door propped open, there is an alarm that goes off. There are sensors on all those that we know exactly. It's time-stamped who can access buildings and when. Some administrators have 24-hour access. Other people, their access ends at 4 o'clock during the day or some specified time. We've also looked at areas, if you come here for a basketball game at night, it used to be that the entire building was open, that literally you could sneak in here with a gun, put it in your locker, walk through the metal detector in the morning, go up there, get your gun, and cause havoc here. We've changed a lot of those things. We've done a safety audit through another group of retired state police who have visited our buildings, and they've looked for those areas, and they've advised us as a board, here are some things that we see, here are some things that you can do. We're not going to talk about those things tonight because the last thing that you want to do if you're going to go into a battle is convince somebody that they can see your plan.
Thank you. Ms. Wadding, how much time in the past have you spent directly working with students and teachers in the school environment? You have 2 minutes to respond.
Well, I have actually spent every day working with children in a school environment, with me homeschooling, so I'm not sure, if that's, it is within a school environment. I actually do also, we have a local co-op that we meet with. I teach a class in the local co-op both this semester, and I will be teaching next semester. I actually end up teaching a class in our co-op every semester. I spend a lot of time in talking with kids that have gone to the school, if we're at parade, or if my kids are at their kid's house. We've had discussions, but yeah, I spend a lot of time with kids and teaching. I don't have an exact number off the top of my head, but
As a follow-up, have you ever visited one of the schools in the Armstrong School District during school hours to observe the environment? You have 1 minute.
yes. So my kids actually, as I had mentioned, did go to public school here for quite a few years. Not specifically here, but we were in West Hills, and I did see. I went in, whenever they would have a birthday thing or something like that, and I see a lot of times how the teachers really truly care about their students, and they want the best for their students. I don't see the day-to-day operations, as that is typically the teachers and administrators that do see that, so I'd be interested I would actually love to take some tours through each of the schools during an average day.
Thank you. Mr. Luke, How much time have you spent in the past directly working with students and teachers in a traditional school environment?
Me? This is my 38th year involved in some aspect of education. I have an education consulting company. I'm on the road 200 days a year in schools across the country. I drove here from Canton, Ohio to be here tonight. I'm driving back to Canton, Ohio for tomorrow. I'm going to be teaching the cast of a month ago tomorrow morning in English class, an AP English class. I'm going to be teaching about the 8th through the 17th Amendment in a government class. I'm going to be teaching dental hygiene tomorrow in a dental assisting program. And I'm going to be teaching commercial baking in a baking program. I do this 200 days a year. This isn't what I do. This is who I am.
Mr. Thomas, how much time have you spent directly working with students and teachers in a traditional school environment? You have 2 minutes to respond.
About 20 years.
Can you elaborate more?
I've been working in education for about 20 years. I don't think that that's a really relevant question, though. I think that the school board is a board that is designed for citizens to be represented, not schools themselves. There is no qualification requirement for somebody to work in education in order to work on the school board. So we're viewing this in the wrong direction. I'm asking that you don't hold the fact that I have 20 years of education against me. That shouldn't be a requirement for being on the board.
Thank you. As a follow-up, you mentioned that the school board's function is to represent the citizens, not the students.
I didn't say not the students.
Can you define what the school board's function is?
To represent the community, the citizens, the students, the community as a whole. And the school board itself should represent the community, not just one industry within the community.
Mr. Thomas, what ideas do you have for the school district if you are elected? What would you accomplish during your term that would cause you to see your time on the school board as a success? You have 2 minutes to respond.
One of the first things I would want to do is to get the budget under control, and doing that by making it entirely transparent what we're spending money on. We wouldn't hide things with the excuse of, oh, we don't want people to know what it is because it's a safety concern. Just let people know what we're spending money on. That's what the community needs to know. So increased transparency. If people know what their school is spending money on, if we lower the spending in the school district right now. Just recently, we passed 2 very important milestones. The school district now spends over $100 million a year, and we dropped below 5,000 students. So for those of you who are doing the quick math in your head, that's over $20,000 per student per year that we are spending in Armstrong. That is insane. We need to get that under control, or else we're going to be taxed to death.
Mr. Thomas, could you please elaborate on what things we are spending money on that you would like to see us not spending money on?
Again, I think transparency is in order here. It is hard to see the line items in the budget because of the lack of transparency of the school board. But there absolutely are ways to cut spending. One way is we eliminated, whenever I first moved to Armstrong County 20 years ago, over 20 years ago, we had, I think, 6 secondary schools in the district. Now we're down to 2. So you would think with that we would have eliminated and had a lot less administrators. But no, we still have lots of administrators. And I don't think they're just sitting around doing nothing. I think that they do a lot of monitoring of the different strings that are attached to different programs that are brought in. We just need to get all of that under control, bring as much as we can into the community, and not have all these strings coming to us from Harrisburg and Washington, D.C.
Ms. Wadding, what ideas do you have for the school district if you are elected? What would you accomplish during your term that would cause you to see your time on the school board as a success? You have 2 minutes to respond.
Well, I've talked a lot about transparency. That's a big thing that I have personally noticed. Improving the communication between the parents, the board, the community. I was at recent school board meetings where rather the parents were actually talking, and most of the school board members were just sitting there staring at their phones or tablets, not listening to what the parents had to say, and that is extremely disrespectful. And we need to build that trust. That's the second pillar, right? So we have these pillars out there for the community and for the school, and the trust within the parents, the community, and the school, and that trust has been eroded away. If you've attended the recent meetings, a lot of those parents don't have that trust anymore. We need to get that trust back.
Thank you. Mr. Luke, what ideas do you have for the school district if you are elected? What would you accomplish during your term that would cause you to see your time on the school board as a success? You have 2 minutes to respond.
Well, one of the things we talked about, and one of the things I ran on last time was, fiscal responsibility. The first thing I brought up when I got on the board was this $3.4 million amount of money that walks away from this local community every year to cyber charter schools. So you talk about cost per student, which Mr. Thomas brought up. Every cyber charter school we send a kid to, we have to send $13,826.53 for a regular education student. If that student has an IEP, this district has to spend $31,614.31 outside of this community to educate our students. I would like to see us look at, we have our own cyber charter school. I would like to get a student group together and look at the root cause analysis for why our students who choose not to be on our regular education setting don't choose our cyber charter school, as opposed to one of the ones that take the money out of this community. This is a $3.4 million problem. Secondly, I look at transportation. We get, there is such a thing called state formula for transportation for busing. And we get reimbursed about 60% of what we spend on transportation costs within this district. There's 40% overspending that we're spending on transportation that I would like to see us find ways to get under control. There are districts out there that get almost 90% of their money reimbursed from the state, and they only have a 10% deficit from their local funds. The other thing you have to remember about our budget, when you talk about $100 million, almost 75% of that money is salary and benefits for the great teachers and staff that we employ. So when you look at the other $25 million, that is really for curriculum and instruction. Right now, we have a 55,000 person shortage of teachers across the United States of America. We have 217,000 teachers teaching across
Mr.
America.
Luke, thank you. Your time is up.
That aren't qualified. Thank you.
Mr. Luke, for a follow-up, where is that 25 million you spoke of being put to improve the conditions and education of students here in the Armstrong School
So,
District?
well, one of the things, when we look at curriculum, we look at instruction, central administration, really as the role of a board member, you have to understand, my job is not to be an education consultant for the district. I got 10 signatures on the ballot, just like everybody else in this room. I just happen to do it for a living as well. But when you look at those things, central administration, they talk to other districts, our administration, they go to professional development, they work with the intermediate units. They bring those ideas to the table for the school board, and we either support those or we ask questions about those, which, we do ask a lot of questions. If anybody wants to ask a question about the budget, you can contact Mr. Kirk any day of the week and twice on Sunday, and he will gladly invite you in to answer anything about transparency in regard to this budget, what money gets spent on. And so, we rely on our educational leaders to basically bring us the ideas that they want us to support.
Thank you.
Thank you, candidates, for your answers to all of the questions. We have arrived at the portion of the debate where each candidate will give their closing statement. Each candidate will be allotted 2 minutes. Ms. Wadding, you have 2 minutes.
Well, when elected, I will put transparency at the forefront of our children's education. I'll actually listen to the concerns of parents and community and not ignore what parents have to say. As a parent, you are your child's best advocator, and you know your child best. Parents have been told recently there's no opt-out letter being sent out regarding concerns about the recent SEL curriculum we touched on, which is an optional, non-graded class. From my understanding, parents have been told that this is because the school is trying to promote this program and have parents and don't want them opting out. Okay, but this is very concerning to me, very deceiving to parents, and definitely goes against my morals. Whether a program is trying to be promoted or not, parents should still always have all of their options up front and not have things kept from them. I feel that it's important to research a subject or question for yourself rather than just blindly trusting someone else's statement or opinion. Collaboration and discussion is extremely important to me, and I also feel that parents must be 100% involved in their child's education and not be kept in the dark or not be given all of the information they need to make this informed decision on their child's behalf. Purposely leaving out information is simply lying by omission and goes against my morals. I will research and ask in-depth questions about potential policy changes, curriculum, or programs, so not only can I personally have a better understanding about the subject matter, but so I can also be better equipped to inform the public, or lead them at least to where they can find the information. I fully believe in teaching someone how to learn and research things for themselves. I'll use my strong family values and morals to ensure the best possible outcome in any situation and not force parents out of the equation. Children are always watching and learning from the adults they're around, and if we treat others with respect, our children will easily mimic what they see. A school should be free from politics and agendas and stick to educating children, and I will strive to ensure that our school district does just that. Opinionated ideals should not be taught in schools, period. We must stick with core subjects.
Thank you. Mr. Thomas, you have 2 minutes.
Yeah, thank you again for this evening. One thing I wanted to mention is in Mr. Luke's last statement, he said that Armstrong spends about $13,000 per student who goes to a cyber school. That's far less than what we're spending per student who stays here. So I did some quick math. Based on 4,800 students in Armstrong School District, if every single student except for one went to a cyber school, Armstrong would have over $40 million left to educate that one student based on current spending numbers. It's crazy how much more we're spending in-house than what Mr. Luke is complaining that we're sending to other schools. So, but we just need to be aware of that. We need to be aware that we are being fleeced. We are being taken advantage of. Our taxes are out of control because school spending is out of control. We need to be aware that whenever the government takes over something that's traditionally done by families, they screw it up. And families need to keep control of their own lives. For example, it has always been pretty easy to teach children what the difference is between a boy or a girl. But schools decided that they could do it better. And how's that working out for us? We need to give parents the control of their own lives, of their own kids, not the government.
Mr. Luke, you have 2 minutes.
First of all, I appreciate everything the kids did tonight, and I hope this was a good experience for you. Second of all, Mr. Thomas checked the math. It's $13,826 for a regular kid and $31,600 for an IEP kid. I didn't give you one number, I gave you two. It's a $3.5 million problem. I grew up here, lived here my whole life. Nothing I like better to see this community thrive. I ran for re-election because I want to continue fighting for the same things I've always thought about. I believe in transparency. I do believe in fiscal responsibility. And I know everybody up here tonight said all the votes are 9-0, and that's untrue. Go look at the minutes. Most of the time, they're 8-1, and I'm the one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. On behalf of the AP and GH government students, as this insightful debate comes to a close, I'd like to express my appreciation and gratitude to all of the candidates for their participation in Armstrong School District's very first broadcasted school board debate. I'd like to also thank their continuous effort to making our schools a better place for all of us. We must also continue to engage in constructive discourse and strive for educational excellence, as our students depend on your critical decision-making and increased emphasis on the stimulation of learning. Our school board creates an environment where students have the opportunity to excel and teachers can flourish. So it is important as a community that we maintain our vision of pursuing a diverse, inclusive school environment where every child, regardless of sex, gender, race, or background, has an equal opportunity to receive the best education possible. We must ensure that our decisions are driven by the tenets of our school: attitude, honor, and success. Our decisions that we form tonight will shape the future, not just for our students, but for our entire community. As stewards of this responsibility, I call on the audience to choose wisely, with community visions in mind and the best interest of our children at heart. Let us be bold and intrepid in our vision, compassionate in our approach, and steadfast in our commitment to achieving the 4 pillars of our strategic plan. I have remarkable faith that our community, dedicated to the welfare of our children, can band together to create a more promising future for the student body and society as a whole. I'd like to thank the candidates, distinguished guests, teachers, and parents once more for their commitment to our community's future. Let us all work together to achieve a brighter tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. My name is Randy Cloak. I'm the Advanced Placement and Gifted Honors Government, one of the Gifted Honors Government teachers here at Armstrong High School. I was not planning to say anything, but our kids have done a phenomenal job. It is an absolute pleasure to come to work every day, because I get to spend my day with this community's best asset, and they're all sitting here in front of you, our kids. So again, thank you for everyone for coming, and most of all, thanks to our kids for